Mr. O'Connell, or Ms. O'Connell, you or Ms. Connell?
No, they're very similar names, yeah.
Well, the one with the O or the one without the O. You said the plan water numbers were online. Look, my office is pretty good at surfing the internet, but they clicked right through the internet, couldn't find, like right through the website, and couldn't find it. Could you send that link, please, that you offered?
Yes, certainly, Senator. Just to be clear, that's the link on the report on the 450 gigalitre framework consultation.
Yes. Yep.
We will send that through.
And the water quantities in that.
The over-recovery numbers?
Yes.
Is that what you're seeking? Yes,
Yep.
Senator, we can provide you with that information.
Thank you. How is the government implementing the Productivity Commission's recommendation on transparency and accountability for Basin plan decisions? We've got a few here about the ACT. What information has the government released about the Australian Capital Territory Bridging the Gap project announced on 3rd of April?
Senator, there was a press release on the ACT Bridging the Gap. Date of that release? 3rd of April 2024. There was a joint media release on ACT fulfilling its water recovery commitments under the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, the Bridging the Gap.
Has there been any more information?
We're happy to provide you with more information, Senator.
Senator Malcolm Southwell, branch head with the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water. The FFA, the Federation Funding Agreement that relates to that matter, has been published on the Department of Treasury's website.
Department of Treasury.
Federation. Yes, there's a website for federal financial relations, and that FFA is there.
There are so many bureaucracies and so many departments.
Well, Senator,
no, that's fine. Thank you.
And that's where all the FFAs have to be published, and that relates to the Minister's press release. The FFA itself was executed on the 14th of March when the ACT signed it, and that provided the $58 million for the 6.36 gigalitres of water that the arrangement related to.
So 6.3 gigalitres, did you say?
6.36 gigalitres.
Okay, that was to be my next question. How much per now my next question instead is how much per megalitre was paid to the ACT, including previous payments?
So this FFA is $58.83 million for the 6.36 gigalitres, and that works out at $9,250 a megalitre.
What part of the ACT is the water being recovered from?
It's been recovered. So the FFA itself doesn't require specific components from the ACT. The ACT has said that they will use the money received to implement long-term water management changes, including water-sensitive urban design activities, incentivising community change to reduce water use and water quality improvement activities.
So no specific water was released?
It's been measured at the, I think it's called the Halls Gap site, the lower Malonga Lake. Yes.
So ACT is the only state that is allowed to do
No, Senator, the transfer of entitlements has occurred. It is with the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder. So the Commonwealth received a licence for 6.36 gigalitres. That comprised 4.9 towards bridging the gap and an additional 1.46 gigalitres of water that were towards broader basin plan outcomes, and that water has since been specified by Minister Plibersek as being held environmental water to contribute towards the 450 gigalitre target.
So the water is actually coming. It's no longer going to the ACT.
That water is now held by the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder.
Is it water that's actually being held, or is it water that will be held due to savings in the future? I didn't quite understand.
So the entitlement has been transferred now.
So
Okay.
It's with the Commonwealth Environmental Water Holder.
Yep.
Thank you.
Who's right there? Yep.
Senator, I can confirm that water entitlement was registered on the 18th of April to the Commonwealth's Environmental Water Holdings.
Thank you. So is it part of that was part of the efficiency measures towards the additional 450 gig?
1.46 gigalitres. So ACT identified that they could deliver 6.36. Their gap that was remaining for bridging the gap was 4.9. That's been met in full. So the ACT no longer has a gap. with the additional 1.46, that has now been determined as contributing towards the 450 gigalitres, which means 1.46 gigalitres less that has to be recovered elsewhere.
Thank you. When or how did officials agree that this met socio-economic criteria for the funding?
So the department evaluated the offer that was made from the ACT. We provided advice to the Minister, a comprehensive assessment around the water and the value that it represented and its contribution towards the Basin Plan, and provided advice to the Minister accordingly.
Thank you. I must say I appreciate your answers being so direct and clear. Can you, is that publicly available, that information?
The evaluation?
Yes.
No, Senator.
Can we get a copy of it, please, on notice?
Take that on notice, Senator.
Thank you. Now, we're 6 months out from the passage of the Restoring Our Rivers Bill. Have any new SD LAM projects been started?
Brett Ward, Acting Branch Head, Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water. No new projects have been started, but as I mentioned earlier in the day, we're working very closely with our Basin State colleagues on identifying ideas and progressing them forward. So there were 7 that were shortlisted by the Basin Officials Committee earlier this year for the states to undertake further development of those, and the information on that is published on our department website.
So have any decisions been made on new SD LAM projects?
Not by Basin Officials Committees yet, so there are prospective projects being worked on. We anticipate, and I gave this evidence earlier today, we anticipate that New South Wales will be bringing forward a new project soon. They have advised us they intend bringing forward a new project soon, and then Basin officials will have a look at that.
What timeline is likely for new SD LAM projects?
It really depends on the project in terms of how long it takes to deliver the project. The delivery time frame for all SIDLAM projects, which applies to new ones, is...
Yes, so there's 3 key dates. New projects have to be notified by Basin officials by the 30th of June 2025. States then have until the 30th of June 2026 to either amend or withdraw projects, and then all projects must be in operation on the 31st of December 2026.
So I take it's too early to determine what the likely volumetric outcome is. Much too early.
Correct. They need to be brought forward first, Senator, but it is a tight time frame, as my colleague outlined.
Senator, if I may add, the reconciliation process will occur in terms of your question around volumes. After December 2026, the MDBA will be required to do a reconciliation after that.
Okay. Thank you.
2 minutes, Senator Roberts.
Socio-economic considerations. How is the government intending to meet the requirements to consider socio-economic impacts of buybacks when it has such an unrealistic target, in my opinion, of recovery of 100 gigalitres per annum?
Thanks very much for the question, Senator. So as the framework, the draft framework makes clear, considering socio-economic impacts is needs to be a key consideration in each water recovery pathway. So it really depends on the option being pursued, whether it's infrastructure, rules-based or voluntary water purchase. But I can talk in more detail about the work that we're doing and the investigations we're undertaking in relation to potential water purchase. So we're doing a range of undertaking a range of work consistent with there was a quite significant investigation into socio-economic impacts of the Basin Plan quite a few years ago, chaired by Robbie Sefton. She chaired a panel, and the advice of the Sefton report was, given that there are really quite complex drivers of socio-economic impacts in the basin, so climate, drought, technology, labour inputs, energy inputs, it's important to look at multiple lines of inquiry to develop the evidence base. So we're doing a couple of things. We're looking back. So we've got the benefit of a range of reports that have been undertaken looking at socio-economic impacts of water recovery options over the last couple of years. So AIFA has done some work for the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, which has been a key reference point for us. Marsden Jacobs Associates, another firm, did quite detailed investigations for the Sefton review, and New South Wales has recently published a report which we've had reference to as well. But I guess the other key significant thing that we're doing is most of those reports find that it's quite hard to actually pull apart what impacts water recovery has on regional communities, and it's important to have a discussion with communities to involve them in those issues. So one of the key elements of the consultation we did around the draft framework was to seek very specific feedback about past experience of water recovery programs, past experience of community adjustment programs, and we're pulling that all together, and we'll also be drawing on advice from ABARES.
Can I just follow up
We'll
on
need
that?
to rotate the
I just
call,
need to follow up on that, please, Chair.
Final
My understanding is that it used to be the requirement for we must have a socio-economic benefit. Now it comes down to, at the top of page 18 of your draft framework report, the Sustainable Communities Program will seek to mitigate unavoidable socio-economic impacts.
That's right. So our first...
That's changed the target.
Our first order approach is to prioritise non-water purchase options. So we've talked quite a bit today about the fact that the infrastructure program opened in January, and then the other kind of core program that under the framework is the Sustainable Communities Program. So we've been working really quite intensively with stakeholders to get feedback on a draft set of principles to guide how funding for community adjustment should be directed. So we've received really quite extensive and clear feedback. There are 7 principles that will kind of form the foundation of the community adjustment program, and the feedback largely supported each of those principles. Many of them were very strongly supported. There was a strong emphasis from local councils in particular. They be closely engaged in the design of any community adjustment principles, so that is something we will be definitely taking on board. And we're currently working with Basin states to look at getting funding arrangements in place so that funding can flow in the new financial year.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank